Okay. I know what you're gonna say. Listen, big naturals, this is kind of what the video is about. Well, that's what I thought anyway at first, and then I was thinking to myself like, actually it's not really about big naturals, it's more like about big fakes, I guess, but oh well. You can tell I didn't really think that far ahead with some of this stuff. So I decided, smoke 'em if you got 'em, ladies. Bring 'em out. You know what I hate about this top? I hate that this pointy bit, it's supposed to be a love heart, right? It's supposed to make a little love heart. Well, unfortunately the love heart goes like boing sometimes. It's behaving properly today, so it's really just trying to prove me wrong, so hey, whatever, right? So today we're gonna be talking about Clara Dao, a TikTok, it's like a TikTok body positivity influencer. Now, we want to start with a disclaimer, right? So there are some parts of this video where I will be quoting Clara Dao herself, where she does clear up some of the assumptions people make about her. However, I will include some of my own opinions, some of the public opinions about the situations, what I think. I will let you know when I'm speculating about my own thoughts and feelings in regards to the situation. It is important to remember that rumors and unverified speculations are not indeed fact, and shouldn't be presented in such a way. I'm looking at the other commentary people who are saying a lot of things as if it's factual. This video does touch on some pretty hot topics about body positivity, self-confidence, body image, beauty standards, and of course, you know, I have to give a trigger warning for ED behaviors being talked about. I will be censoring some of the ways that I will be saying things, so I apologize if that comes off as flippant. I'm not trying to be. And you know, sometimes I just am a little bit silly and I like to inject some humor into things. That's just kind of like the kind of person I am. My personal thing though that I want everybody watching this to soak in is that if you do not like Clara Dao or how she handled things, just don't support her as a creator. You don't need to go and do all this hate comment stuff and harass on her all of her socials. It literally won't solve or help anything, and it will actually have the opposite effect and probably help her algorithmically, or it'll make her show up more in your feed as well. So I think it's just completely unnecessary, and my advice to you would be to just let her exit your mind and return to a life where you're at peace. Block her. I remember when I first started TikTok, I had to block so many fucking creators because TikTok would just push all these people, and I was just so sick of seeing their shit all the time. It's just, you just block them and move on. Also, let's start practicing watching the video in full before commenting. That could be that's a good challenge for today. Here's your challenge for today. Watch the video and then comment afterwards. Alright, shall we begin? If you're unaware, Clara Dao has been growing her following under the brand of being a body positive creator since 2019. Her content was centered around creating a safe and welcoming space for women, particularly those with flat chests, although she touched on a few different other insecurities as well. Clara says herself that she wanted to create content for her 16-year-old self and to help other young girls who might be struggling with their bodies and their body image, self-esteem, and other insecurities. So, what exactly is so controversial about Clara Dao, and why did she lose so many fans? Well, Clara made a massive pivot and underwent chest augmentation surgery around March of this year, 2025, and that is what sparked the controversy around her body. The public conversation surrounding her was an absolute tidal wave of people disappointed and upset, feeling as though Clara had succumbed to beauty standards after building an influencer career around self-love as you are. I think she did a pretty good job at convincing everyone that she loved herself the way that she was. The water is a little bit murky here because it's kind of like you have to take her at face value, as she says she still loves herself and always loved herself. A lot of people looked at her as like a role model for her body type. A lot of people would tell her like, hey, I have the same body type as you and you made it feel like normal and okay. Which is a nice thought that people would feel better about themselves from it, I suppose. But she was for a very long time, 6 years, the face of the itty bitty committee, as some would say. In a news article written for People magazine on October 15th of this year, 2025, Clara said herself, "After 6 years of doing the same thing, it's just got to the point for me, personally, of like wanting to do something else." People magazine was told exclusively by Clara that she wanted to pivot to other types of content or to just stop talking about her flat chest. It was very spontaneous, according to Clara. Dude, I know when I'm making big life decisions, big life-altering changes, I myself like to be pretty spontaneous with that. For sure, for sure. On Instagram, Clara goes on to address the controversy by saying she got bored from making content about her flat boobs for the past 6 years, which, yeah, doing that for 6 years, that would get pretty tiring, I can imagine. She goes on to say that, sure, she could have kept her flat chest and continued making videos about it. It really did bring in a lot of views and a lot of money, I'm assuming. But she felt like she was staying in her comfort zone, and that she wasn't growing, no pun intended, as a person. I think usually when people say they're leaving their comfort zone or they're too inside their comfort zone, they kind of just pick up a new hobby or like do something they've never done before. You know, cook something you never cooked before, I guess. But this one is a unique one for sure. The more Clara went on about her content change, she added on more about how she wanted to see what she would look like if she was more on like the opposite spectrum of her natural body, essentially saying she wanted to have fun and experiment with her looks. I do want to add on that a long time ago, Clara had double jaw surgery to fix a severe underbite issue, which obviously was done for health and quality of life reasons. But I am mentioning it to say that Clara is no stranger to the transformative properties of surgery. Even before she had her augmentation surgery, she was also getting lip filler injections, so she's been exploring the idea of altering her looks for some time now, which I have no issue with ordinarily, but she does make content specifically to help younger girls, so it's not hard to imagine that she has a very young and impressionable audience. I think Clara makes an interesting point where she talks about how she's proud of herself for doing what she did, even though she was for sure going to face a lot of backlash for it. And as she puts it, at the end of the day, it's pretty badass to do what you want with your own body, even if you know you'll face certain backlash for it. So I think that, yeah, Clara knew for sure her audience would not like this move. And you do have to admit, it is kind of ballsy to make such a big massive change.
Massive, dude.
That, you know, your audience is not going to approve of. I kind of understand getting bored with your content, especially if you've been making the exact same shit for 6 years. Like, I have to say, guys, it is pretty insane. It is kind of a box that she put herself into, though, but that's why you have to be careful, because you can just put yourself into a box making content, and if you get too much of like a niche audience or whatever, a lot of people get like this thing called like audience captured, where they just want to make stuff that's, I guess, that they're like, oh, this is what my audience is gonna like, so this is all I'm gonna do. I suppose, I don't know. I think that if you want to make content yourself, you have to be very careful of what kind of, like, are you going into a niche or are you putting yourself in a box? That's what I think. But that being said, the scrutiny of this new content strategy, it was always going to happen no matter what. Pivoting from like in such like a strong way, it was always going to get like a huge reaction, which maybe she thought that was a benefit. So let's also notice here at this moment how Clara really commodifies her body and how her previous content was really just an idea to be sold. So in her boob job cancellation video, I think Clara definitely got the PR team out for this one, because she starts going on about her rebrand. Not saying that specifically, but she starts talking about how she wants to be an influencer of bravery, and she wants to like not give a fuck about what anyone thinks, and to do what you want with your own body, even if others don't like it. And her whole shtick now is being confident in your in yourself, and I guess self-help in general, I guess. Dude, she's totally gonna come out with a book someday about being like, I don't know, the lioness or some shit. She's gonna be like, the lioness does not concern herself with TikTok people. I just know she's gonna do that. Fingers crossed. Come back here. If she comes out with a book, come back here. As far as my opinion goes about all this, I can definitely understand why people, like namely her audience, would feel upset with her changing, and changing the one thing about her body that she insisted was perfect as is. Hold on, I'm gonna sneeze. Oh my god. I think I'm gonna sneeze again. I'm not being cute, I'm sorry. Let's get back to it. People are upset with her changing her body despite insisting it's perfect as it is. However, I cannot in good conscience condone the hate campaign surrounding it. I just can't. In some ways I feel like it's not that serious. I guess we are kind of going back to the territory of beauty standards and feminism in a way. She started her content revolving around her body and developed an audience of people that were like her, that were the same, and enjoyed the perspective and the viewpoint that she gave. And that they did not have to submit to beauty standards and just enjoy living as their natural self. I see the benefits of people having these influencers who can help normalize certain things and making people feel seen, but I think that if you're a consumer of this content, you really need to stop giving influencers so much of your time and energy. I honestly don't get how people can get into following these self-branded influencers who clearly market themselves as the face of like X movement. No matter what these people do, to me it always feels performative and fake to me. I don't know if other people feel that way, but that's always what gets me, I think. When I first saw Clara's videos pop up on my feed, I always thought the fact that her videos were always about the same exact message kind of screamed like a red flag to me. I know a lot of creators will have like the one gimmick that they stick to because it just does really well in the algorithm, and people like knowing what to expect from you. So there's a like comfortability there, I guess, for the viewers. It felt more often than not that she was really just trying to convince herself, though, in my opinion. That's what it came off as. And that's fine. That's fine. Maybe she needed that. Maybe she still needed that content. She says it was for her 16-year-old self. Maybe she still needed it. At the end of the day, I guess what I'm trying to explain is that, to me, her content always felt somewhat pandering. And maybe that's like the way that the form of the material goes. Like TikTok videos, it's kind of hard to feel like anything is, I guess, what's the word? True. Not the word I'm looking for, but you probably know what I mean. There was this look of genuineness that I didn't really feel attached to. Like, I feel like her videos are made in such a way where it wants to come off as very genuine and very, like, realistic and personal, but I just never felt that connection to the content. And listen, maybe at the same time, it just wasn't for me personally. I mean, listen, I have insecurities too, man, but maybe not the same one, so maybe that's why it didn't come off that way. The other thing I think, and I kind of agree with Clara on this one, is that she was pretty young when she made her TikTok. I think she was probably like 21 or 22. I think you should expect that people will grow, their perspective is going to shift on things, and I'm sure that she made somewhat life-changing money from doing what she did. She probably thought she would never attain that kind of wealth, and listen, it might open up a lot of options that you never had before. Although, looking back now, I think she has rich parents, because they did pay for her surgery, and I feel like she could have easily paid for it herself. And she has this video on her thing about her parents' huge property in Vietnam. So, I don't know much about them, but it is kind of like a murky waters, I guess. Like, if she has rich parents already, then she probably always had the option to do bigger naturals. Sorry, I'm trying to censor myself a little bit with some of this. So she always had the opportunity to do it, but she just didn't really go for it, I suppose. I don't know. So I think that when you put yourself into a corner, it's a little bit difficult to get out of it and to break free from it. I think that if you want to make content, like I said before, you really need to be careful on how you might be putting yourself into a box that you might not always want to be in. And I think that's the kind of the case for Clara. My issue is that, for me personally, I change my mind all the freaking time on what I want to make. what I lose interest in and what I gain interest in kind of changes a lot. My TikTok, for instance, went from making like skit style humor videos, which I say that very lightly, okay? I do not give myself much credit for the videos I used to make. To then making League of Legends content, which I loved, but I eventually did get bored of it, and now I don't know what I do. I don't really do anything on there, so yeah. The public opinion definitely criticizes Clara for being more dolled up now, wearing certain clothes and more makeup, getting her augmentation. People say she used to be much more simpler. She wore simple clothes, she didn't wear makeup, maybe she'd dye her hair every so often, but she was very like minimalistic with her looks and stuff. And a lot of people, you're like, man, you changed, man. Look at you now. I won't fault a woman for changing her style as she gets older and wanting to experiment and try new things. I think it's okay if Clara wants to change her looks, even if it doesn't reflect the way that she used to be. And I know I'm gonna get hate for saying that because it's not what people want to hear. I do think that there is concern for how it might affect her audience. However, I'm not gonna dogpile on her for having a change of heart. I'm just not. I do think it's a good learning lesson for her audience and just people in general, and that's to stop giving these influencers so much impact on your life and your view on yourself. You don't need some random TikToker to let you know that you're fine the way you are. You just don't. And if you need someone on the internet to tell you how to feel about yourself, you're never going to get to a place of self-confidence or self-love. That's my opinion, okay? I believe that comes when you truly believe it yourself and when you come to that conclusion from looking at yourself. And that might not make a lot of sense to a lot of people right now, but I promise you, you don't need the internet or randoms on TikTok to tell you how to feel about yourself. And that's just what I think. This is coming from someone who used to be deeply insecure, deeply troubled with, I don't know, just the way that I look. I mean, what girl doesn't have issues with the way that they look? It's so hard because we grow up in this world where even when you're like a little kid and you go to like the shopping center with your parents or something and they have those magazines that are just so clear in view on the racks that always, like, you can just read the headlines because they make the headlines in like 500 fucking font, and you can always see like, oh, flat chest, flat tummy, big boobs, you know, baby bump, you know, you see all this writing and it's like, it's ingrained to you so young. It's so horrible. And, you know, like, let me just say, like, I understand men have like a problem with insecurities too. I'm sorry, men, this video is not about you, but I get it. But I just wanted to say that, like, yeah, I understand the insecurities, but I think for me, partly what changed with how I felt about myself was, I think, implementing a mindset of just trying to be healthy and maintaining health over, I guess, vanity in some ways. I think for me that's definitely helped a lot. I think trying to be more proud of like what my body can do instead of what would look better. And I think another thing that also helped is I watched there was this one movie I watched about ED behavior. It's really hard to say exactly because I'm not sure what words are like gonna get me demonetized or whatever, but when you learn about all the different ways that ED behavior can affect and destroy your body, I think that also helped keep me away from getting too deep into that territory. But when I was a kid, I was on the internet and I had like Pinterest, I had Thinspo boards, Tumblr. Like, anyone who grew up with like Tumblr and Pinterest, it's like, how you doing? How are you? So getting back to it, I understand normalizing things is very important and I'm happy for people to be doing that, but when you see someone clearly marketing themselves and their brand the way that Clara did, don't you think it's a little bit weird? Don't you think making dozens of TikToks a week about the same exact attribute is a little obsessed? Even if it's for video making and has a higher purpose, it still means that Clara herself was spending probably every single day, hours and hours on end, planning content, finding new ways to make videos about body positivity, finding trends to follow. And she still changed herself. Like, it's weird to me that people feel personally betrayed by this chick that doesn't know who you are and probably just sees you as an extra number to their view count. Like, let's be honest. People get really attached to Clara and these kind of creators and their content because they feel accepted. I think with Clara's case, they felt accepted and saw themselves through her. And when she made her bodily change, people then felt rejected by her in some way. It's a sensitive issue for sure, but I just don't know how else you would expect someone to act, branding themselves in this way. I think getting famous probably did change something in her, but obviously her content has always been about what would perform the best, and initially that was her flatness, apparently. I think this was always a branding thing to Clara, I believe.
The flat-chested girl. I may have explained this in the past, but I can try other types of content, and I have tried other types of content in the past. The moment that I did a flat-chested video again, it's like the best video. So I'm like stuck in this cycle of like, I want to break out doing other things, but I know that flat-chested content would be the best performing content. So what's the point of doing the other type of content? Like, and I had no problem doing that for 6 years. I loved being the flat-chested girl. I swear I didn't do social media if I didn't be known on social media for this very specific type of content. I wouldn't have the boob job. I had no problem with my flat chest.
So here we go to the next portion where people were asking, did her boyfriend make her get the augmentation? Clara and Javi started dating late September 2023, and they broke up between May or June of 2025. The couple had made plans to live in Vietnam together in 2025. They wanted to live in Da Nang by the beach and felt like they were strong together. They had a couples channel, they were trying to do a startup business together, everything seemed to be going well. Clara moved to Vietnam. She moved from Canada to Vietnam 2 weeks before Javi would join her mid-March. The couple spent 2 months living together in Vietnam, and Clara said she thought everything was going well. However, during this period together, Javi at one point went to the Philippines, came back to Vietnam, then went to the Philippines again to work on a festival. Then apparently, during a phone call, Javi dropped this bombshell on Clara saying he wanted to stay in the Philippines forever and not go back to Vietnam. After, Clara had packed and organized everything for international movers to move their stuff to Vietnam. Clara says she was open to the idea of moving to the Philippines, especially since he had tried for 2 months to live in Vietnam with her. She was willing to make another move for him. What ended up happening is that she went to the Philippines to stay for a few weeks, and during that time, Clara says she didn't feel like she was prioritized, and she saw a side of Javi that she just didn't know about. And in the 2 years of dating, she'd never seen that of him before. So she doesn't exactly go into detail on what this side is. It just that it was really different. So there was a 3-week time period between him going to the Philippines and then coming to stay. And Clara says this was a time where they started to really grow apart. And if their relationship was to continue, they were going to have to face a 3-month long distance relationship due to the lease in Da Nang, where she would stay in Da Nang and he would stay in the Philippines. During their breakup, or somewhere in this timeline where they're together in the Philippines, Javi tells Clara that he feels like a side character in her story and wants to build his own business and focus on his own career. So mind you, I believe that she had a shit ton of followers, and I don't know how they met. I didn't bother watching that video, but they meet and then suddenly he gets more followers because he's with her and they make content together. So I think there's definitely perhaps some insecurity there. That's what I got from her breakup video, which she then started crying and talking about some metaphor about how she's the ocean and she just feels really deeply about things. And then she swings into an advertisement for some chat roulette knockoff app where she's talking to some guy and how he likes Asian girls. Can we bring up how irresponsible it is to be promoting a video roulette type app to an audience of presumably young girls? If you don't think there's just dudes on that app with their wangs out, you're tripping, on God. It's just so bizarre to have a video where you're crying and you're pouring your heart out over this heartbreak, you thought he was the one, he's gone now, and then spinning it into an advertisement. It's just so fucking weird. As far as the public opinion on this breakup goes, people reckon he was cheating, but Don't let me just tell you about it. Let me show you why people think that. This is gold, and I'm just showing you this for entertainment purposes. I mean, as far as the cheating stuff goes, it's like there's really no evidence to support that theory. So let's just dive right into it. This is gold. This is really fucking good, actually.
Hey guys, so I just wanted to share that Clara and I have broken up. It was a decision that we made because we simply just wanted different things. You know, I moved back to the Philippines 2 months ago, and I just love the Philippines, man. And you know, she wanted to live in her beach house in Vietnam, which by all means is her dream life, and I'm super happy for her. But we just talked about it, and it seemed like the right time to just let each other be free and just work on things we're excited about again. You know, I think it was a dream starting YouTube and social media, you know, getting up to 2 million followers on that account. But I'm excited for what's gonna come. I'm back home, the place I grew up, and yeah, I'm excited for what's next. I don't know what to say.
Bro, he looks downright fucking gleeful. I mean, if you didn't catch what I was trying to allude to in the video, the fact that this man thought of addressing his breakup shirtless and flexing, I mean, that's not a red flag. That is the bat signal of red flags. You feel me? Now, to be fair to Javi, I'll show you his video addressing the video that addressed the breakup. This is content gold. No, you're seriously never gonna believe this shit. I'm showing you for a reason, okay? Trust.
So it's been 2 weeks since my breakup, and as many of you could tell, I was happy. It was a perfect relationship. She understood me, she taught me how to be a better man, she taught me how to give, and together we achieved things I could have only dreamt of. And for a second, she really became my purpose. And so I think the hardest emotion I was avoiding was realizing that that was not the vision I had for my life. In the months leading up to the breakup, I started to feel really lonely because I didn't have any friends outside of the relationship. I felt homesick living in another country, but most importantly, I started to feel this lack of purpose. So I moved back home to the Philippines, literally hosted the biggest party of the summer, DJ'd at shows, got a car, but most importantly, I met my new friend group, reconnected with my parents, and started pouring into myself again. So yeah, I am making this video to process my breakup and even the sadness that I felt. But I realized that sadness isn't this negative emotion we should avoid. If anything, sadness is the skill that helps us let go and move on. And you can bet that I'll be documenting every part of that journey. Yesterday I was talking with my mom about my breakup. And if you know anything about Asian parents, is that they don't just listen, they have opinions. See, my parents have 3 things on their checklist for my future wife. They have to live in the Philippines, come from a good family, and be traditionally feminine. But the thing is, I've spent 5 years living in Toronto, and so my perspective on dating is very Western. And the people I've dated in the past were always independent, career-driven, and they always wanted to split the bill. And because of that, I became really avoidant when talking about my dating life with my parents, because I knew their standards. And it felt like for the longest time, I've been running from the values I was raised with. So I guess now I'm just trying to strike that balance. So comment what you think, because I'm still trying to decide if this is toxic or traditional.
Yikes. Well, me personally, I think that traditional is toxic, but okay. You see, he did put on notes. He's put on a shirt again. That's good. And again, we have more like engagement bait. This whole video's aesthetic feels like it's a direct ripoff of Clara's video style. And I'm not trying to say she has that unique of a style, but it's like exactly the same. I feel like he's trying to test the waters here, saying that his parents want him to have a more traditional feminine girlfriend, which probably translates to like a trad wife expectation. It's clear to me, in my opinion, that he was insecure with his ex-girlfriend and her following. Also, I want to mention that some people said that their couples channel, Javi and Clara's, felt like it was forced. But like she was forcing him to do the content together, and let me just tell you this. He is soft launching couples content with his new girlfriend, doing McDonald's ads with her. No one was forced here. They both clearly like content creation. Let's not make it like weird, I think. And that's fine. They both like content creation. They're both content creators. Saying that like one of them was being forced into doing the couples channel. Listen, man, I just don't know how. I just don't know about that one, Chief. So everyone kept pointing out that right after their 2-year relationship ended, he moved on really quickly. I think Clara also said that she kind of moved on very quickly, but you want to know what I think in regards to Javi? Again, let's put our speculation hats on, folks. I'm speculating here. I reckon he lost feelings a long time ago and just couldn't decide or was too cowardly to break up with her. So instead of breaking up with her, he tried to do things to get her to break up with him, or he tried to get it to be so bad that it would end or dissolve the relationship. So he suggested moving, maybe hoping she would not want to leave Canada, but then she was actually really willing to do it, so then they had to get another plan, or he had to get another plan, and then he put his foot down and went, I never want to leave the Philippines, and Clara said, okay, bet, and then he was like, fuck, she's never going to get it! So then he just didn't want to bother with the relationship, so when she was in the Philippines, he just, didn't really pay much attention to her, which then led to the relationship's natural breakdown. That's my theory, and it's the reason why I reckon he moved on so quickly. Again, there's no way of knowing for sure, but there is no evidence for cheating, guys. I will say though, in the midst of like saying all that out loud, I think it's fair to also assume that maybe he didn't know what he wanted to do with himself. Like I said, they're both pretty young, and I think that he had some other things that he wanted to do, and to be fair to him, he did try for like 2 months to be in Vietnam with Clara, but it just didn't work out, you know? It just didn't work out. And you know what? Sometimes this shit happens, guys. I don't know. I mean, we don't know what happened behind closed doors and all that. But yeah, Clara was willing to live with him in the Philippines, and he says that she wanted to be in her Vietnam beach house. And Clara does talk a lot about how much she loves Vietnam, and, you know, I've got to say, it sounds like their separation was the right thing to do, but guess what? Clara doesn't live in Vietnam anymore, she lives in Canada. So I think she actually wanted to live in Canada. By the way, she also apparently has, like, multiple properties in Canada that she has to manage, so it's like, dude, this chick and her family, I think, are loaded. They are f***ing loaded, bro. What the hell? Now, something kind of mean... it's pretty mean that I've been saying, not saying, God, no. Something kind of mean that people have been saying, not I, because I don't agree with this, but it's relevant to the public opinion about her surgery intentions. So people are seeing Javi's current new girlfriend, and now they're going like, oh, I can see that it actually wasn't his idea to change Clara's looks, because now his new girlfriend... Look, I think his new girlfriend is very beautiful, but apparently a lot of people feel a little bit like he's got some type of girl. He's got a type, that's what I'm trying to say. But they're also saying that I guess she's ugly, and that he wouldn't be with an ugly girl if he wanted to change Clara like that, so... I don't know, man. I think, to me personally, I think, again, speculation hats on, folks. I think Javi just was insecure with Clara, and... I think when you're a guy and you get emasculated and you take masculinity and like gender roles kind of seriously, or it's like a big part of like who you are, being emasculated like that, I don't think Javi liked. Again, it's a lot of speculation, but it's really not hard to look at the breakup video he did where he's shirtless and flexing and take some kind of narcissistic sort of... I know, we throw around the narc word all the time, I guess, but when you're covering, like, people who are, like, on the internet who are doing these kinds of things, I think we're all kind of narcissistic in a way, right? We're all like that. I think some people are just a little bit more on the spectrum of narcissism than others, but yeah, Harvey, there's definitely something weird. Especially about the way that he portrays himself. It's very weird, but anyway, that's all I'm gonna say about him and his new girlfriend. I think she's beautiful. She has done nothing wrong. She seems quite lovely. Again, I wasn't holding too much weight to the boyfriend being the potential reason for her changes. Yes, this is what we were originally talking about. You might have forgotten, I certainly did. But who knows really? Clara says it was all her idea, and feelings changing. I don't know how much it really matters. I think people wanted it to be the boyfriend's idea, because then at least that way she has some sort of like she's kind of innocent in it, and all, like she was in a toxic relationship and he made her do it, and that way people are like, oh, it's not really her fault, she just wasn't in a good place. I think people wanted to have that out for her, but Clara was just kind of like, no, I'm not gonna blame him, it was me. And I've heard some commentary people say like, oh, well, you don't know who you're influenced by. Sometimes you're influenced subconsciously, and I think, yeah, a lot of the time we are influenced subconsciously about these things, but, you know, I think Clara is a grown woman. She's making her own decisions. Again, I think that I'm not going to infantilize her and be like, oh, Clara's just, she was influenced and she doesn't know what she's doing. Like, I'm not going to be like that because I think that's toxic and I don't think that's a very feminist way of looking at it. At the end of the day, now that they've broken up, if she wants to remove the implants, she does have that option, although in terms of the surgery, she does explain that her skin had to really stretch a lot for the 350cc implants, so I actually have no idea if she can really go back on this surgery in terms of skin. It might be complicated, I don't really know. I did look up on Reddit, I know, Reddit, oh, Reddit research, wow, shocking, right? But I wanted to know more about like explanting and getting rid of the implants and stuff, and someone actually said that they had no boobs and got implants for 60cc. They went from an A to a double D, and, you know, of course they got really sick from it. I think their body rejected it, and they decided to remove the implants, and they were kind of worried about the vanity of it all, like would her body kind of go back to normal afterwards, would it not? And apparently they went back to small B cups and they look very healthy, and it took a year to fully heal. But yeah, I think that's actually kind of a nice thing to think about, is that there might potentially be a way to go back on the surgery if she wants to. I mean, like, that's if it was really, really, really his idea and not hers. Like, there is a way to go through that, and I think she might be able to come out on the other side fine. So I don't think she's entirely trapped in this body of being like the big boobs. It's big boobs, or it's you have to get like, I don't know, corrective surgery maybe. I don't know. Does it really matter? I'm just saying, she has the opportunity to do that, and she hasn't done it, so we'll see what happens in the future. So Clara, in her boob job video, she actually addressed the allegations that Javi forced her to do it, and she says that actually, this is gonna be crazy, she only told him about the surgery 1 to 2 weeks before she actually had the surgery, and she did it during brunch. Now, it's kind of like, girl, you only just told your partner 1 or 2 weeks beforehand? You just said, hey, I'm doing a body-altering surgery. I don't think you need your man's permission to do such things. Definitely not. Fuck that. But it's not hard to imagine that it would be a little bit shocking or a bit difficult to process for him. It makes you wonder, actually, how a 2-year relationship, you guys didn't talk about this, like, up until the surgery was already slated to begin. Like, you weren't just going, like, looking on your phone like, oh, you know, babe, I'm really thinking of getting my boobs done. What do you think? I mean, again, saying like, what do you think? Or like, oh, this is something I'm thinking of doing. You know, you like, I don't know, man. It didn't sound like she'd ever really brought it up with him before. That's not a good thing to admit, I reckon. I think it's actually rather telling in my opinion, but maybe she did mention it at some points. Who knows? It's still kind of a crazy way to say it to someone, especially your partner. So, to finish off this section about her augmentation, people have continued to bring up her surgery, saying that people don't normally just do surgery for fun or for trendiness. Surgery carries risks, pain, complications. You know, it is a pretty life-altering decision to make, etc., etc. Again, anyone, I think, who does plastic surgery knows that this is, like, not typically a necessary thing. It's a thing done because you want to look different. Trendy, well, I personally don't think boobs are necessarily a trend. I think people are trying to characterize her surgery in certain ways to try and justify their hatred towards her. Look, guys, you can be upset that you felt welcomed by her small bosom and then rejected when she made them bigger, but I genuinely think people should stop commenting on her videos and posts, bringing it up time and time again, because it's not, like I said before, it's not going to change anything. And it just makes you look spiteful and angry, and quite frankly, I think you're doing too much letting this influencer bother you like that. I really do. I really think it is a little bit, like, obsessed. Like, why are people so obsessed with her and her chest? Like, it seems to me like people are really, really attached to this person. I think that when it comes to famous people getting these surgeries, it's best to be open and honest about it. And I mean, with her particular change, it wasn't really something you could hide, but I like it when people are open about it. I think documenting the process is interesting to see, but I would hope in that process these people would do their due diligence to not glorify it too much and make people aware of the potential side effects and negatives. Unfortunately, with these surgeries, the people often getting them aren't that well educated on all the ins and outs, and a lot of people do get the surgeries for the wrong reasons. And there's so many things that can go wrong, particularly with augmentation surgeries. A lot of women don't realize that their bodies can reject the implant, so they can make you chronically ill, which I think goes hand in hand with the rejection, and that the implants themselves need replacing every decade or so, or that the type you get can really matter, the surgeon you go with really matters, whether you can still breastfeed or not, if that's applicable to your life. There's a lot to consider and to know about, and not everyone is educated on that, and a lot of people will make content around these things, not informing their audience. So I would hope that Clara doesn't glamorize the process or make it too one-sided. I think she does have a responsibility that she has tried to obtain this younger, impressionable audience, and it's like, now you need to kind of follow through and, I don't know, treat it kind of sensitively. At least I think so anyway. And Clara says she's a self-proclaimed choice feminist. We've kind of gone over that in previous videos, but in the beginning of her content, she says that she just chose not to wear makeup and to wear simple clothing. She chose to not put too much attention towards her looks, and she later just changed her mind. I see this sort of surgery, in my point of view, this is going to be controversial, but I think it's somewhat like gender affirming perhaps, because it seems to me that as time has gone by, Clara has developed a more girly, feminine style. Like before she'd wear dresses occasionally for videos, but she's become a lot more expressive in her looks and being more like feminine. And as we saw before, I guess, that Javi was like, oh, my parents want a more traditional feminine woman, and then it just so happens that she's starting to be more feminine. Like maybe there's a link there, perhaps. Not really sure. I mean, she's young, she'll get a new relationship, she'll find someone else. But I know a lot of people might not agree with me for saying that, but I do believe in gender affirming care for everyone, and I do believe it extends further than just like being trans and stuff, that people who are like, you know, born female at birth go through like these phases of like rejecting being like traditionally feminine and then exploring femininity at a later age, you know, because I think the time period that I was growing up, if you hang out with like guys and stuff when you're a kid, or like boys, I guess, there's like this weirdness around being a girl, and you kind of want to reject like pink and stuff like that, and then as you get older you kind of learn like, oh, that's silly, like pink is just a color, like who gives a fuck, and then you start wanting to like wear pink stuff, and you know, I think a lot of women have gone through that. So to finally add on to that, the other commentary people have said that they just can't figure out why Clara would throw away such a huge audience that she built for something just like implants and that's it, and she had to know that this would be difficult to recover from. And that makes me all the more convinced that this is something she did for herself. Maybe she thought egotistically that she could get more people on her side, or she just wanted to change her content, and with that comes a natural shedding of your previous audience. All things considered, I think Clara will be fine. I mean, her views are a little bit down on YouTube at the moment, but it's not super different on TikTok, and I think she might rebuild an audience. I think in some ways, she's pretty unrecognizable from the way she used to look. So she might build a new audience, who knows. I think at the end of the day, Clara's gonna be fine though. She sounds like she's pretty financially well off, but you never know. So people say she doesn't have an audience anymore, or even a boyfriend, and I have to tell you, I really don't think that's the case. Like I said, she'll likely regrow her audience, people forget, I mean, it's still pretty fresh, so people are still commenting and saying the same shit, but people are gonna move on, and she will grow a new audience and retain people who align more with her new brand, and She will continue to get random brand deals, like I said before. Heck, she might even come out with a book. I don't know, man. I think she's gonna have a book. I just have this weird feeling. So I don't know why, but since she's pivoting to self-help, maybe that's why, but I just feel it in my bones. She's gonna do something like that. And you know, boyfriends, they come and go. She's still young. She'll get a new boyfriend. Like, I don't know. I don't know, man. She'll get a new one. And if you really think she changed her looks for a man, just wait until the next one comes along, and then we will see for sure if it happens again. And if that's the kind of person she is. For the time being, I choose to believe Clara in some ways when she says she did it for herself. Otherwise, it really makes no sense to make such a drastic brand change, and yes, I am referring to her image and body as a brand, because that is how she has treated it since day one. And I think a lot of people would benefit from realizing that her body is her brand as much as, like, the Kardashians, except she started off with the opposite end, where it's body positivity and it's embracing your natural self, but that in and of itself was still a brand and something to be marketed. The skinny controversy. If you thought I was being too nice to Clara in that last segment, wait until you see this portion. Now, this portion is just something else entirely, and I think this actually made it seem a lot more apparent that Clara is very driven by, I want to say, it seems like she's very driven by money. I feel like this video was very telling, and it is kind of, maybe some people will be like, oh, she's driven by money, shocking, but let's go through it. Clara made this video about some reasons why she is so thin and how she maintains that. Other YouTubers have made videos critiquing this whole saga, saying she was promoting ED behaviors, and at first I was kind of in disbelief of this. I thought, look, a lot of people hate her, maybe they're just looking for another reason to shit on her, right? So I had a look for myself. My first impression was her thumbnail. I think her thumbnail was worded in a very problematic way. It was definitely not a good start, but I figured maybe people are still demonizing her to make content as harsh as possible. I think Clara even said herself that she never worded her video as a skinny tutorial, despite her thumbnail basically meaning that, so that's why I had the impression at first glance. Clara's disclaimer in this specific video states she gives tips on how to control weight based on her own extensive research and personal tips. She then says, "You are perfect the way you are," smiley face. Let me get this off my chest right now. Why are you making content to help people control their weight if you are not a doctor? Clara is not a nutritionist as far as I know, and no matter how much extensive research she does, this video is just an excuse to body check and flex her thinness to others. I mean, really, which is a beauty standard in and of itself. If everyone is beautiful the way that they are, why would you make a video to try and help them control their weight? Is she trying to pretend like her body is the gold standard of health? There's simply no way to go about this topic without being an absolute and even if it is geared towards people who are overweight who could be healthy or losing some weight, you are not a doctor. May I keep reiterating that? You have no business telling people what to do and giving advice on how to do it. This video didn't need to be made, full stop. We get it. You have your own unique genetics, you never gained weight in your life. Awesome. This didn't need to be a 30-minute tutorial on how to let others achieve that. That is just my opinion, but holy moly, I wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt so bad, but this was actually really bothersome to me. And saying you're perfect the way you are at the end of her disclaimer is like the fucking icing on the cake. You know this video will benefit from people not feeling that way. You know that people wouldn't watch this video if they thought this about themselves. This to me feels exploitative of garnering an audience of people who are not as secure in themselves, welcoming them in, saying it's a safe space, and then coming out making a video and being like, how to stay skinny. People have asked for her workout routines and asked her what she eats, etc. It's clear to me that her fans are looking to her as a role model for guidance on how to attain her looks, and it just frankly reminds me of early internet ED culture and thinspo boards and shit like that. It's like how to get abs in like a week. It's not, it just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't. I do want to do a side note real quick. I personally don't believe Clara ever really helped many people by spreading body positivity. I think that she just replaced the unhealthy fitness influences by pretending to be more body positive, as that's like a trendy thing. She has the same exact audience of people who create thinspo boards on Pinterest, and these people are trying to get out of insecurity hell, and by following her, maybe people thought that they could get out of that, but she's still basically perpetuating the same stuff as like that banana lady who like tried to convince people that you could just eat bananas all day and be skinny. It's like hiding behind this like faux healthiness. I don't know. It's just crazy to me that a couple of years ago she made this video about being skinny, and I mean, people definitely called her out on it and stuff, but it's like, I just don't understand how you can talk yourself up as like this body positivity person, but then being like, here's how I stay between 90 to 100 pounds. I'm sorry, 90 to 100 pounds? I don't know. It just, it's not it just doesn't look healthy. I don't know, man. It's just not. So she says that she made this video because she had watched a lot of other skinny people, or like, she'd watched a lot of other videos from people around the world talking about their own habits that keep them skinny. Like, I don't know, people in like fucking Europe being like, here's how my European diet and, I don't know, habits make me skinny all the time. And then she just adds all these pictures of herself body checking, and she goes on to say that she made her video about skinny habits to verify the information out there. She says that. Literally, who crowned you the queen of skinny habits brigade? I mean, I genuinely can't believe someone like her thought that this was a good idea to make. I think she just saw the numbers and the views and she was like, this is a bag and I'm gonna get it. Again, this video was from 2 years ago. She was directly financially benefiting from perpetuating this bullshit, and if this wasn't the signal to duck out by now, I don't know why y'all stayed. Seriously. So the first really controversial thing that she says in this video is that she only really eats when she starts to really feel hungry, like hunger pains. Like when she's really feeling it. And I can understand her sometimes, like, forgetting to eat, and she says she doesn't remember to eat sometimes and then it just kind of hits her. And I used to have that a lot more frequently, but then when I started doing gym stuff, I haven't had that issue since, but that's like me personally anyway. I feel like not remembering to eat can be normal for some people, and for some people it's just not on their mind that much. I'm not trying to normalize that behavior by any means. I wouldn't say I'm proud of forgetting to eat, because it's not healthy to do that, and it never helped me improve my mental health or my day. But just because something might be normal for someone doesn't mean, like, that's okay, right? I'm just saying it's some people's normal. Like, if you don't eat, your body literally tries to eat its own muscles to sustain you, and if you don't get enough protein, your body literally can't function optimally. The building blocks of, like, the way your body works, they can't get the energy they need to do what they need to. It's bad. Clara tries to clarify what she was saying by explaining that it's more important to eat when you feel hungry than to just eat because it's that time of the day, lunchtime, breakfast time, dinner time. However, here's where I already disagree with her so much, and if she really did do her extensive research, I'd like to fucking see it. She should know that not eating all day until like 7 p.m. is horrible for your body. People are not gaining weight because they eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. People gain weight for a multitude of reasons. Genetically, they lack education on nutrition, they lack education regarding calories, caloric intake. Your body needs energy, but sure, some people are consuming too much of that and don't realize it. Another issue is walkable cities. A lot of people, I think, particularly in America, can live in places where walkability is just like, it's not there. Which for me is actually really hard to imagine because I feel like you can walk like pretty much everywhere here. And like a lot of, yeah, walkability is just not something that America infrastructure really had in mind, I think. Another huge issue is money and the cost of healthier foods, and a lot of people also don't learn how to cook, which would be a lot healthier than getting takeout. Mental health plays a huge role as well. Weight is complicated, and doctors are now looking at obesity with the lens of it being a disease rather than just like a lifestyle choice. Doctors are literally tackling obesity in a very different way than they used to, and hopefully it catches on some more. Cutting breakfast and lunch out of your day will only lead to negative health health outcomes, in my opinion. Of course, I'm not a fucking expert. I'm not a doctor nor a nutritionist. But if she's going to come out here and claim that she's coming from an educated, well-researched perspective, I simply don't believe her. I get that some people don't feel super hungry in the mornings. That's something I believe has been observed as like an individual quirk, and that's okay. There are still some ways you can go about getting like protein in your coffee in the morning to make sure you're getting at least something, but it's not like too much and it's not like sickening. Oh my god, this pissed me off so much. Clara goes on to explain that in the hunter-gatherer era of human evolution, we had to work really hard to find food and to gather it, and she says it was normal for humans to go a day or two without food if sometimes it was scarcer. It's like, hey babe, just because the human body was built to withstand some time without food or water doesn't mean we need to go there in 2025, right? The human body is built to ensure that the human survives and carries on the human race, even if it is at the detriment of their body. Being in survival mode does not mean you are healthy. She can say all she wants, that she isn't trying to encourage restrictive eating, but then goes on to say snacking throughout the day is not healthy. Really? Just off the face of it, you're going to make blanket claims about things like that? Based on what evidence? Snacking throughout the day can be beneficial to a degree. For some people, I would imagine it depends highly on their diet, what you're snacking on, who you are. If you have some nuts and fruit, for instance, that's probably a pretty good snack to have. It has a good amount of fats, it's got carbs for fullness, some carbs, and then added fiber for more fullness. However, if you're instead snacking on a full bag of potato chips, yeah, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that that's not healthy. I fucking hate this argument for naturalism of like, oh, we did this back in the caveman days, so let's keep doing it. And then we get to the reason why she made the video. It was an advertisement for a freaking drink she uses as a food replacement for breakfast. Now that's just my opinion. Maybe she already had the idea for the Skinny Legend video, and then she found a sponsor for the video, and they like popped up in her inbox. And then she maybe made a video around it. Who knows? I don't know for sure, but I do know for one thing, this video has an agenda. Another issue I had with Clara is that in my opinion, she's also spreading misinformation, claiming that she read in a book that your genetics can predispose you to a certain weight baseline, and that if you go up in weight, that new weight becomes your new baseline for your body's preferred weight. So then if you want to go below that new baseline, it's a lot harder to do. She cites this book, Magic Pill by Johann Hari.
What was that?
As some sort of research-based material that supports her claim. The author of this book uses a lot of anecdotal experience as evidence on using Ozempic, and how society has a dysfunctional relationship with food, weight, and body image. Keep in mind, Johann Hari is just a British writer and journalist. He's, as far as I know, not a doctor. I think there's very little evidence, if any, it's flimsy at best, regarding this baseline theory. I think this baseline theory can be dangerous in some ways because it might make people lose hope and motivation, thinking they can never lose weight. You know, feeling like their body is built to be against them. It's true that genetics play a factor in weight, and it's very complicated overall, but I think people might use the baseline theory as like an excuse. And I think there are better theories out there with more weight to them than baseline. So when Clara says she's done extensive research and read all these books about fatness and weight, it seems like she's a little bit too interested in this topic, and there's nothing wrong with being interested in it on its own. But when she's out here making videos on how to be 90 to 100 pounds and maintain that, it's getting into concern territory for me personally. And all I'm saying is I think Clara is wrong, and she's using some fad book as evidence for her claims, in my opinion. If this is the comprehensive research she mentioned in her disclaimer, it's pathetic. Some people might say they do an all-meat diet and lose a ton of weight from that, but that still doesn't mean you're losing weight in a healthy, balanced way, and losing weight by using this diet doesn't necessarily mean you are losing weight in a healthy way. I think I just said that. The next point she makes in this video that I don't like, or I think comes from a very simplistic reductionist point of view, is she says, don't make food the focal point of your day, which she explains is that you shouldn't center your entire day around the food that you're going to eat. While I agree that I think calorie counting is a dangerous road to go down, she adds on some comments that make this point an issue for me. She says that you should have hobbies and work and be passionate about something so you're not thinking or concentrating too much on food. This will then make it so that when mealtime rolls around, that's the only time you have to think about food instead of looking forward to it all day. Let me share this perspective. Some people have this issue called food noise, and they also have jobs and hobbies that don't just make it go away. I feel like a lot of the advice Clara gives in this video is just self-help guru book stuff, and it gives you a very surface level perspective on issues that are really intensely complicated. I think some people found GLP-1 and even, I believe, some antidepressants stop their food noise entirely, but some people also found other ways to curb food noise in like a, I don't know, less intervention-y type way. For me personally, I actually found that increasing my protein intake actually helped me tremendously, and yes, I have had both sides of things where I forget to eat, and there are other times where food is all I can think about and imagine and crave, and both sides of it really suck. And I think even right now I'm actually kind of hungry. I'm gonna have to have food after filming. So one last thing from her video I will go over, which just stood out to me as weird, is that she talks about how she would crave bubble tea at like 8 or 9 p.m. and then she would have it as like a reward, and if she had it at that time, she wouldn't get to sleep at around 5 to 6 a.m. That was just really weird to me. Maybe it's so weird because if I have bubble tea, I finish that drink in like 10 to 15 minutes. What do you mean? What do you mean you don't sleep until 5 to 6 a.m.? Those drinks don't last long around me, and yes, I do chew my boba. Dude, when you accidentally suck up a boba pearl and swallow it, that's like a life flashing before your eyes type moment for me. I think that's kind of it. I'm not going to go too much into like the rest of that video because I think she made some okay points later on that I didn't have too much of an issue with. It was pretty standard advice, some of it, in my opinion, and like some of it was like, yeah, that's like fine. But of course, I would recommend you watch it yourself, check it out. Watch it if you're interested, if you're not like bothered by that type of content, because it could be triggering for some people. My video here is in no way a replacement of her content. I just wanted to cover the takes that I thought were really controversial and that I super disagree with, and I really felt like needed to be addressed. I think that this video kind of illuminates a lot about like her intentions with content creation. She saw that like a lot of people were making this skinny content and they were like, oh, and she was like, oh, these bring in the views. Like, I was watching this on my YouTube channel, the one that I'm posting to, because it doesn't have search history on, and the recommendations when I was watching that video were all about being skinny and trends and habits to make you like maintain trimness and stuff, and I'm genuinely like shook that YouTube has been allowing that kind of content and been helping that people be monetized. Well, not helping, but allowing people to be monetized by that content. It's really quite wild. Like, in some ways, I think that there are habits you can have that will make you gain more weight. Like, if you're a type of person who finishes everything on their plate, even when they're full, it's like that, yeah, like that's a habit that like I think people really need to be aware of. Like, there are some things that she put in her video where like, you know what, yeah, like that's not the worst advice ever. You know, like a lot of people will eat really, really quick and they won't give their body time to tell their brain that they're full, and then they end up getting like overstuffed and stuff. Like, you know, there's things here and there where it's like, yeah, it is good to be aware, but again, I think that the fact that her video had all this other stuff peppered into it, it kind of negated the points that she made that I thought were fine. And I think that trying to tell your audience that you're coming from a perspective of like well-researched, I think you're trying to give yourself more credit and more authority on a topic that in my personal opinion, I think she has no business or authority in making this kind of content. It's not good, and I think people are very justified in criticizing her for this content. Another thing that bothered me about this, one last thing, she addresses the promoting ED behavior stuff in her apology video and her video about her being cancelled, and she goes on to like continuously deny that she was trying to promote ED behavior, and she continuously like defends that content. And for me personally, I think that if she's not willing to talk about how that was actually a really bad video to make and really unhealthy, the fact that she won't even, I guess, entertain that idea makes me really not like her. I think she actually hasn't taken the time to really reflect on that, or the fact that she's being so defensive about it. I think she doesn't think there's anything wrong with it, especially for like a financial point of view, because despite having to turn the comments off for that video, she still has the sponsorship up in that video. The sponsor hasn't pulled out of that, even amidst all the controversy. Like it just seems to me like, I mean, listen, I never thought of her as being like a genuine online figure. I don't think there are really many genuine figures online, but she really, like, this video about like being skinny just was so, it just really brought clarity to me on how she really commodifies herself, her body, and it is a marketing tool, it is a brand strategy, and I do agree that it's much like the Kardashians. Here's my conclusion. I think it's pretty clear to me that Clara Dao has always been driven by what brings success. She said so herself in her apology video, that one day she did a flat-chested video and it went super viral, it did really well, so she decided to keep on doing that. Clara knew that pandering to an audience of insecure people who are also looking for validation about their looks would work out well. However, Clara put herself into a box, making herself somewhat a one-dimensional character on people's phones. People wanted to see a feel-good storyline that they felt personally connected to. People wanted to hope that someday they could be like Clara and finally accept themselves the way that she did. Unfortunately, from my outsider perspective, as someone who was never a fan or really watched her stuff, I personally believe, in my opinion, that her audience was always just a number to her, a means to an end. I think Clara Dao is misunderstood in that people thought she was creating content altruistically when she was really just creating what got her the best numbers. I think Clara Dao is misunderstood in regards to her surgery. I do believe people wanted her to be a victim of a toxic relationship if it meant she was still that body positivity TikTok girl who just got caught up in an unfortunate situation. Clara Dao, I think, always had the funds for an augmentation surgery, but why now? It does make sense to me that she got tired of making the same old content over and over again, but I think people are having a hard time grappling with that explanation because the content was just so personal to them. The reason why I brought up gender affirming stuff is that Clara really did get a lot of hate comments no matter what. People would still say she looks like a boy and how she looked and seemed. You know, she's talked about how she read a lot of comments and still kind of does. And I think it would be pretty hard for her to not internalize some of that stuff. So maybe it did affect her decision. Perhaps she was seeing a decline with her viewership and people were losing interest, so she decided to switch things up and reinvent herself. I think when all is said and done, Clara will be fine. She still has a huge following and views, and there are plenty of people out there who think her ex-fans and their hatred of her is completely uncalled for. I think she will likely recover. I think as much as people wanted to cancel her, I think cancellations don't really work out, and I often think that people cancel women way harder than they cancel men. We have people like Jeffree Star and James Charles who are doing fine, and they did way worse things, in my opinion. The internet just doesn't treat cancellation of women the same way they do with men.